Welcome to the Love for the Game podcast. Here's your host, Reed Napper.
All right, thank you for joining us, everybody. I am Reed Napper, the host of the Love for the Game podcast. We'll be breaking down a couple key games from the Week 2 slate of the college football season. We got about 5 games coming up here. Some of the games, we got the headliner, Michigan, Oklahoma, 7:30 on Saturday night. So looking forward to that one. Going to be, a tightly contested game, I believe. And we're going to get right into the slate. But first, after word from our sponsor, Squad Blitz. Take a second to thank our sponsor for today's episode and the official sponsor of the Love for the Game podcast, Squad Blitz. Now, if you love playing fantasy football and you love college football, now this is the app for you. Squad Blitz, the only college football, fantasy football app that you will need. It's classic fantasy football, but with the twist, you're drafting complete teams instead of individual players. So you're drafting offenses and defenses relative to their passing, rushing, receiving, and defensive stats. So say you want to take Penn State for their rushing attack with Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen, you'll take Penn State. Say you want to take Texas for their stout defense, you could select Texas. You join up in a league with all your friends, enter the transfer portal, to make new acquisitions throughout the season. If you don't like a team and you want to switch them out, you can also make trades within the system. So, classic fantasy football, except you're only looking to, take over full teams instead of individual players. If that sounds of interest to you, download the Squad Blitz app today. Fantasy football for college teams. And upon sign up, use Love for the Game under the referral tab upon sign up. And thank you to Squad Blitz for sponsoring this episode of Love for the Game. All right, we are going to get right into it. The first game on the slate, the Illinois Fighting Illini heading down to Durham to take on the Duke Blue Devils. This line currently sits at 3.5 on FanDuel. All the lines that I'm going to be talking about today are brought to you by FanDuel, non-official sponsor, but that's where I get my lines. High noon Eastern on ESPN. Illinois, number 11 team in the country, taking on Duke, favored by 3.5, over under total of 49.5. Now, Illinois coming off a week 1 win against Western Illinois, 52-3 at home. Luke Allmeyer looked pretty good from all the preseason hype that he was getting as a returning starter for the Fighting Illini. 18-22, 231 through the air with 3 touchdowns. So he came as advertised for sure. For Illinois, even though it was against inferior competition. Now, I was really impressed with their run game, surprisingly. 37 carries for 209 yards on the ground, led by Langway and Fegan. Langway with 101 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, and Fegan with 74 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So I was really impressed with that running back duo there for Illinois. And the receivers also didn't really impress me as much, even though Luke Altmaier really had an impressive performance with only 4 incompletions and 2 over 200 passing yards. The receivers didn't really do much as a collective group, and especially by West Virginia transfer Hudson Clement only has 1 catch. So if he definitely is going to elevate his play, this is definitely the spot to do it against what I expect to be a very stout and disciplined Duke defense coming in this game. And speaking of defense, Illinois' defense recorded 4 sacks in that game, 2 by their leading defensive player, Gabe Jacques. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And they also recorded 2.5 TFLs. So I think the Illinois defensive line and also their running game really were the 2 standouts for their performance in week 1 against Western Illinois, again, winning 52-3. On the other hand, Duke had a slow start coming out of the gates against Elon. They went into halftime tied at 10 in that game against Elon and ended up winning 45-17 in their week 1 victory. Again, they picked up their play in the second half. Darian Mensah looked to be every part of legit as the quarterback that coming over from Tulane. 27-34, 389 passing yards with 3 touchdowns. So he looked to be every part of the quarterback coming over from Tulane going over there to Duke. They also had 4 running backs of over 25 rushing yards, averaging 6.4 yards per carry on only 25 carries, which I thought was really impressive, with 2 touchdowns coming out of that running back group as well. And they also had a trio of receivers that really stood out to me as well. Cooper Barkay with 5 receptions and 117 yards. Quayshawn Brown, 6 receptions for 93 yards. And Samir Hagans with 54 yards, but he also had 2 touchdowns through the air. So dynamic second half for this Duke offense for sure. After coming out to a sluggish start, and Jaden Francois, the leading tackler for Duke with 10, also recorded 10 tackles for loss and 3 sacks for the Duke defense, and that's exactly what you'd expect from a Manny Diaz-led team in the Duke Blue Devils for sure. You would expect a very disciplined and stout defensive front for sure. Biggest question marks coming in this game, Illinois. How can they find more offensive balance? Again, as I said, their running backs were the mainstays of the offense coming into out of this game. They need to get more production out of that receiver group for sure. I totally trust Luke Altmaier to be able to get those receivers the ball. It's just who are those receivers going to be, and who's really going to take a step up as the number one receiver in that room after losing their top 2 receivers to the NFL coming into this season. So that's definitely the biggest question mark on Illinois' side. For Duke, how can they get out to a better start out of the gate? You cannot come out sluggish in this game against the Fighting Illini. I think Illinois is too talented on paper offensively to really be coming out of the gate, slow. So say Illinois in their opening drive, at least gets a field goal. You need to be able to match a field goal. I think they're gonna have to match scores in this game for Duke. Again, if you get to halftime again and you're down by at least 7, you still have a fighting chance in that game. But if you come out sluggish and say you're down 10, 13, even more than that at the break, that's going to be really hard to come back. It's not Elon that you're coming out of halftime against in the second half. So I hope that's the biggest question mark for Duke coming into this game. How are they really going to come out on a quicker foot coming into this game, especially against better competition with Illinois? Again, they are not Elon. So it looks like Lowe just joined the room, so let me see if I can get him up here. Show on stage. Lowe, I think we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Test 1 2.
Yeah. You're good.
Good. All right. Perfect.
All right. Yeah. What's up, man? How are you doing?
Man, my bad, man. I was running behind. I was actually talking to my VIP clients because I put on I do a video stream for them just for our group, and that ran a little over, so I apologize.
No, you're good. No worries at all. We're just getting started. Illinois Duke. I just kind of gave a breakdown of both their games from week 1, so I'll let you get your thoughts in here once you get settled.
All right. So which game you say you've only done one game?
Illinois and Duke.
Is that the only one that you've done so far?
Yeah, again, I just started, so you haven't missed anything.
Oh, perfect. So yeah, Illinois is Duke. We kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday for sure. You know what I mean? And let me get my, I'm just gonna, I guess, refer back to the notes that I had from yesterday. Yeah. So in this one, I mean, what I said is that neither one of these two teams have really been tested this year so far, because they both have played FCS schools. I'm tripping. FCS schools to start their season out, and both of them won, pretty convincingly. Illinois, I think they beat Western Illinois like 52-53 or something like that, 53-3 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Duke, won 45-17 or something like that, where they struggled in the first half versus Elon, which was crazy shocking to me because I didn't think that Duke was going to struggle, especially in the first half with them. But then in the second half, they absolutely came out, turned it on, and got the job done. For me, I don't have a measuring stick of these two teams right now, so I can't go off of what they really did versus those FCS schools whatsoever. And I think that these two teams still need, in this game, they're going to need time to fill out each other. Kind of similar to what we saw in week 1 with a lot of schools that went against FBS schools. They had to, it took time for them to fill each other out. They didn't start scoring points really until after the first half. So I think that this game is going to be really, really low scoring. I think it comes down to who has the ball last. And to be honest with you, I think it's the first team to probably 20 wins this game from them trying to figure it out. So I took the under 49.5 when under 49.5 in this one. Is the only play I selected for this one.
Yeah, and I was mentioning that before. Duke, they can't come out to a slow start in this game for sure. If you're going into halftime, say down 7 or 3, you still have a fighting chance, especially against the Illinois defense that could get got. But you're not playing Elon out going into the second half. So I definitely agree with you. I see this as a low scoring competitive game, a defensive battle similar to Texas Ohio State last week, where you're just expecting like kind of a rock fight, honestly, with the two defenses being the standouts here. And honestly, I don't see, at least from the performance last week, I don't know how Illinois' receiver group is going to fare in this game. They didn't really do much of last week. They kind of leaned on the ground game more, 37 carries for 209 yards from the running back group. So I think this game definitely, I agree with you with the under. Holy crap, I'm tripping. I agree with you with the under. If I had to pick a side, I kind of like Illinois with the points, even though it's gone up a point from 2.5 where it opened. I like them in the spot, mainly because I think they're a more complete team at this point. I liked their defense, and mainly because they've recorded 4 sacks, 2 of them by their standout Gabe Jacques. So I think they're going to be able to get some pressure on this Duke offense for sure. But I'm with you. My main play here is the under for sure, 49.5. So yeah, we are aligned there. We're gonna move. Yeah, next game we're gonna go Iowa State. This line is Iowa State 2.5 over under total 41.5. Both coming off wins last week. Iowa beat Albany 34-7, even though Mark Gronowski, the incoming transfer quarterback for Iowa, only threw for 44 passing yards. Traditional Iowa offense, 310 rushing yards, excuse me. Really good on defense. You expect that from an Iowa team. And then Iowa State, on the other hand, beat South Dakota 55-7 in week 1, coming off the week 0 win against Kansas State and Ireland. Rocco Becht looked pretty much flawless, 19 of 22, 78 through the air and 3 touchdowns. They also had 5 running backs record 23 or more rushing yards, totaling out to 223 overall. And the biggest stat for me, they had 0 turnovers offensively while forcing 3 defensively. So, we expect this out of this game to be low scoring, a very competitive battle. Well, I'll let you get into your picks here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a low scoring game. Traditionally, whenever Iowa and Iowa State do play each other, they're low scoring games. To the tune, I want to say their last 6 games, they've gone under the posted total. And we've seen totals of 36.5, 35.5, 40, 46.5, I believe that is, 42.5, 47. So this number is right there where, they typically, set the line at. So it's nothing out of the norm to see this at 40, 41.5. I know a lot of people are looking at like, man, that's really low, especially if they don't know ball, if you will, or they don't know how these two teams play. They, they stay low like this. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And typically these games are, comes down to who kicks the field goal last or who has the ball last and scores a late touchdown that is going to kind of seal the game for them. But I think Iowa State is definitely been more tested so far this year, even though they play, week 0. And Iowa didn't get a chance to play in week 0. But even in week 0, their first test of the year was versus conference foe Kansas State, which is a team that a lot of people had making the conference championship preseason. And they went to Dublin, Ireland, and got the win. And, when you look at it, even though the score may have looked like it was closer, but Iowa State was in control of that game from kickoff to the final whistle. You know what I mean? And Beck looked great. I mean, he just looked like he was in control of the huddle. Typically you see letdown spots, especially when you win big games like that. So I thought that Iowa State was going to kind of have a letdown in week 1, and the line was shorter than what I thought it should have been. And I forgot who they played. I know they played somebody that was, who was that? South Dakota. The line was
South
only
Dakota,
at like
yeah.
14.5, opened at 14.5, went all the way up to 16.5. And even still then, I thought that like shouldn't this be like in the 20s? So I was kind of skeptical. I was like, could this be a little letdown? No, Iowa State said it's no letdown. We're for real. Won that game 55-7 convincingly. So if I had to put my money on the side, I'm with you. I would put my money on Iowa State here to
Mhm.
win this game. But I think that it is going to be a close game because they always play a close game, and I think it's going to be an under game. So, but Iowa State money line for me, if I had to take a side, and the under 41.5 for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I mentioned this in your space last night, for anyone that was in that as well. I really agree with you on the under, but I really like the first half under 20.5. If that's still the opening line, even if it goes down to 19.5, I still like that. Um, I just think, these teams are going to come out. I feel like we're going to get a feel, like they're going to feel each other out in the first quarter pause. But I really think, they're going to figure out, what each side is trying to do offensively, and the defenses are going to adjust for sure. Like you said, the last 6 times they've gone under the total number, and it just barely went over last year. The line closed at 36, which I don't think I've seen a college football game ever that low of a total. It just went over at 39. So again, they're always close to that number. I like the first half under 20.5. And if I'm picking picking a side, I'm taking Iowa State in the points, -2.5. All right, we're gonna go to Baylor and SMU. SMU favored by 2.5. Over under total, that I forgot to change that on the graphic, but that is a 65.5 total. Also a noon game on CW. SMU, the home team here. And yeah, Lo, I'll let you start here.
All right, yeah, I'm all over Baylor. I said this the other night, and
Yeah.
in the spaces, that's actually my best bet. As I'm taking Baylor plus the 2.5. I just can't see Baylor going down 0-2. Once again,
Mhm.
this is a team that was picked to be competing for the conference championship in the Big 12. Going down 0-2, absolutely, I think puts a needle in this team's morale. Right, you're 0-2. You haven't won a game. You lost, even though they've been two games. And they played a tough game. I wouldn't even really say all that tough because they allowed just Auburn to run the ball all over them like they were like little leaguers. But
Mhm.
I mean, Miranda can't go down 0-2. I mean, or he might not even make it the full season. They'll run him out of Waco so fast, being down 0-2. And then it just like once again, it takes the sell out of this program's morale, and they who knows what happens there. So I think if there's a such thing as a must-win game in week 2 of college football, which is crazy to say, this is a spot where Baylor, you got to win this. Okay. Um, so plus 2.5 for me, I did already lock that in. It's -105. As far as the juice goes, it looks like it's on BetMGM, also on FanDuel. Also, Baylor player prop for me in this one. I am taking Cole Wilson over 46.5 receiving yards. I mean, that's Robinson's top guy. Even when going up against Auburn, I think he went to him like 13 or maybe 11 to 13 times or something like that. 132, if I'm not mistaken, receiving yards. Like, this is his top target. He's going to go to him. And not only that, but like I said in the spaces the other night, I was thoroughly shocked to see that SMU allowed Texas A&M Commerce to throw for 244 yards on their defense. I can only imagine what Baylor's offense is going to throw. They definitely should double this number. So if they was able to throw for 244, Baylor should be able to throw for 500 yards passing here, which kind of, for me, it leaves Baylor, it leaves Baylor where SMU is going to have to keep scoring in order to keep up with Baylor. And if they can't keep scoring to keep up with Baylor, that's where I give the advantage to Baylor. So yeah, I'm on Baylor in this one, plus the 2.5. I think Baylor wins this game outright. Wouldn't be afraid to sprinkle on Baylor's money line as well at plus 110.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of pundits talk about how Baylor's kind of in, like, I would say, wounded animal mode. they've already gotten the animal's already gotten shot. How is the animal going to respond? Is it going to run away? Or is it just going to fall and pass away right there? So I definitely see Baylor in this spot. Kind of as a kitchen sink game. They're going to throw it all out there. They did not want to start 0-2 on the season, and let Dave Aranda, possibly get fired after this game if they do lose the game. So I'm with you there, but I'm going contrarian here because I'm seeing everyone take Baylor here. I'm going to take SMU at home. I think there was too many exposures defensively for Baylor for me to really back them. I do like Sawyer Robertson. I love what that offense brings for Baylor, but I just think there's too many question marks defensively, especially if you're going to let Jackson Arnold run for over 150 yards on you and also give up over 70 yards to each of their running backs, over 300 yards total. So I think there's, again, too many question marks for Baylor defensively. If I'm going to pick a side, I'm going to take SMU minus the 2.5, but I think this game definitely has shootout potential. I like the over 62.5. It's even dropped a few points, which I love. I like the 62.5, even in a week 2 game. Again, I'd see a lot more question marks defensively for Baylor than on SMU side. And also, in the same note as the over, I like the first quarter over at 13.5. I was actually pulling up if that was still the line. That is still the line, 13.5 on FanDuel minus 138. I love that both these teams seem to come out hot out the gates. So SMU averages in their last 10 games 14.2 points in the first quarter, and Baylor in their games averages 15.2 points in the first quarter. So I love that spot. I've actually already placed it. First quarter over 13.5 in Baylor SMU. And over the total of 62.5. I'm probably not going to take anything on the sides here. But I do think SMU pulls away, or not pulls away, but I do think SMU comes away with the victory in this game and moves to 2-0 on the season. All right, we are going to go to Kansas and Missouri. We got the border war, their first meeting since 2011. A rivalry game for over 100 years they've played this game, but they haven't played since 2011. Missouri favored by 6.5, over under total of 50.5. I'm just double checking to make sure that line is still the same or if it has moved since I last checked. Nope, still 6.5 in favor of Missouri, over under 50.5. Kansas 2-0 beat Wagner last week 46-7. And they kept up the explosiveness from their week 0 game on offense. Jalen Daniels 18-25. 280 through the air, 4 touchdowns, and Lowe's favorite bet of last season, Jalen Daniels to throw a pick. He did throw a pick last week. Daniel Highshaw Jr., running back, 14 carries, 89 yards, and a touchdown. 5 running backs of over 23 rushing yards, totaling 285 on the ground. And Emmanuel Henderson Jr., Jalen Daniels' number 1 target, 6 catches, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And the defense, again, against inferior competition, had 3 sacks, 9 tackles for a loss. Missouri, on the other hand, beat Central Arkansas last week 61-6. Bo Prabula is now the full-time starter after Sam Horn also got hurt. They were going back and forth between the starter position, but Bo Prabula got the line share of production. 23 of 28 through the air, 283, 2 touchdowns through the air, and also 10 carries for 65 yards and 2 touchdowns. And while I know you're a big fan of Ahmad Hardy, the Missouri running back, he had 10 carries for 100 yards and a touchdown. So I think I really think Missouri is going to show what a SEC offensive line and defensive line looks like. I think they're really fast on the defensive line, and they're really explosive. There's a lot of questions, especially on Kansas's side defensively. They have a couple linebackers that are injured coming into this game, so I have no idea what I'm getting from Kansas really defensively coming into this game, even though they looked pretty good last week. But I'll let you get into your picks here.
Yesterday I was on Kansas plus the 6.5 because I felt like Kansas has been playing good ball, especially with JD at the quarterback, which I just found out the other day. So he's JD6. Like, I didn't realize you got JD5, who's with Washington, who was with my former alum of my beloved LSU, and now is JD6. How crazy is that? But I was thinking like Kansas plus the 6 because we've seen them in 2 weeks play football. They've been able to hold their opponents to 7 points each, and I was like, okay, well maybe Kansas is playing some good defense. But the more and more that I looked into this one, Kansas really hasn't played nobody. Okay, this Fresno State team that they played, is a rebuild team. New coaching staff, new players coming in from the portal and stuff. Like that's really not a measuring stick. And then last week where they played Wagner, like that definitely is not a measuring stick. So this is Kansas' real first test going up against, like you said, a SEC defense, SEC offensive line, SEC defensive line that's going to be way more physical than those two games that they played combined. So I'm going to kind of retract my Kansas plus 6.5 and no longer have that as a bet. But you did make a point on something that I think I am going to bet, and that's JD to throw a pick. Like he got away scot free in week 1. I mean, in week 0, not throwing a pick versus Fresno State. But I mean, even Wagner got him. Okay, Wagner got the guy for an interception, right? So I definitely do think that Missouri will get him for an interception as well. They apply pressure to him, make him do something stupid that he typically does all the time. He rushes his pass when he feels pressure coming, and he throws into a pick. So I don't see interception on FanDuel, but if you can find that line, whether it's on DFS or on another sports book, and you do see him for a interception, that would be the play I like a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And if I can find it somewhere, I'm easily going to take that because what I think we talked about this before, but I think he threw like 12 interceptions last year or something like that. Like it was 14 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, something like that. So I really like that play as well. I think exactly like I said, Missouri's going to impose their physicality on the offensive and defensive lines here, and therefore I think they cover this number. I think Missouri wins the game. Uh, uh, I don't know. I'm not sure about the total. I'm leaning over on the total, but that's not going to be an official play. Again, if I have to take anything here, I'm going to take Missouri minus 6.5. But I actually like Kansas plus 3.5, if that's still the number, to cover that at halftime in the first. So Kansas plus 1.5 in the first half. Let me just confirm if that is the number still. The reason I like this, I think similar to the Illinois Duke game, it's going to be a feeling out, or the Iowa State game, excuse me. It's going to be more of a feeling out process between these two teams going early on, especially with two mobile quarterbacks with Prbula and Jalen Daniels. I think these teams are going to decide whether if they want to put a spy on the quarterback or just send 6 the whole time and just pray the defensive backs can hold up on the back end. So that is still the line 3.5. I like Kansas to cover that number in the first half. But my official play of this game is Missouri minus the 6.5 for sure. All right, we got one more game, biggest game on the slate. We got Michigan going to Oklahoma, the headliner matchup of the weekend. There's a lot of talking points in this game. Well, I'll let you get started here. What are your thoughts on this huge matchup between Michigan and Oklahoma?
Oh man, I didn't even bet the. I mean, I think we did like on Saturday. I think we did like a community put together parlay for the Clemson LSU one. But like outside of that, I didn't bet nothing in that Clemson LSU game because I was kind of one, I don't like betting against my team. It's either I like my team a lot and I'm going to bet them because I like where they're at or their position of who they're playing, or if I don't like them, then I just stay off the game. This
Yeah,
one right here,
you're also going to the game too. So at that
yeah,
point, especially as a fan, you just want to enjoy it at that point.
correct, exactly. This one has the same feel to that one because, I mean, Oklahoma is supposed to be, this elite team this year. Venables is supposed to be 100% in control of the defense. And then the offensive coordinator that came over from Washington State with Mateer is, taking over 100% of the offense. Um, And Mateer just, I mean, he just continues to look poised under that offense. I mean, he looks like he just absolutely has everything dialed in. And as long as he's at the helm, all you got to do as a receiver and as an O line and, other positions offensively is just follow his lead, and he's going to lead you to, victory. The only player I could pull from this one is I like Mateer over 233 and a half passing yards. I mean, this guy, like I said yesterday, he could throw for 300 yards in his sleep. You know what I mean? It's nothing for this guy to throw for 300 yards and still lose. You know what I mean? Or not have a good game. He'll look at 300 yards and be like, man, I had a terrible game. So I think that this number is a little bit undervalued because it's Michigan, and Michigan has always been known defensive for being a defensive style team. Um, but I think that Mateer offers something that Michigan probably has not seen in a long time. Even in the Big Ten, I don't think that there is nobody that is this dynamic of a quarterback as Mateer and makes it feels like the right damn reads all the time down the field, and just places the ball where his receivers are the only ones who catch it. So for me, the only play I will have in this one, outside of just enjoying and just taking notes of these two teams, is Mateer over 233 and a half passing yards.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. That's a good play. Biggest question marks for me with Michigan is really, who's going to step up at receiver. They still really haven't, defined that receiver group. Their number one target is still a tight end named Marlon Klein. He had 6 catches for 93 yards and a touchdown. And I understand Bryce Underwood looked really good, but still, if your number one target is still a tight end, there's a lot of ways to defend that, especially if Brent Venables, in arguably his biggest game yet as a head coach at Oklahoma, he's gonna find ways to completely eliminate the tight end position, as Michigan likes to go to that spot. So I am questioning the total here. It's dropped to 44 and a half actually, which makes me think this game could slightly go over or slightly go under. So I don't know if I'm going to take anything with the total. But as I said in your space last night, I like Michigan to cover the number at 5.5 here. As long as it doesn't keep dropping towards closer to a field goal. I like them to cover that number. I think Oklahoma wins the game outright, but Michigan covers that number. I also am liking the first half over 23.5 is still the number plus 110 on FanDuel. Oklahoma in their last 15 games has averaged 25.6 points in the first half of their games, and Michigan is right on that number at 23.5 average in the first half of their games. So even against good defensive competition, like on here I see Washington, the Texas game last year even had 27 points in the first half. Minnesota is a decent defensive team. Washington, like I said, Oregon, that game went to 38, and Alabama in the bowl game last year had 26 points in the first half. So I really like that number, over 23.5 in the first half. And if I'm picking a side, I like Michigan here plus the 5.5. So that's all we got for the slated games we were going to talk about, Lo. But if you have any other best bets you'd like to give out to the people, or something for them to look out for before Saturday, you're free to speak. You got the floor.
Yeah, I think, we talked about this too the other night. I think the Virginia getting 2.5 points versus NC State is just absolutely disrespectful. This is a NC State team that allowed a absolutely atrocious ECU football team to just put up crazy passing yards. I think it was almost 400 passing yards versus NC State. I'm trying to go back right now as we speak and pull it up to see the exact number. But when we talked about it yesterday, it was just disturbing to see a NC State team allow a ECU team that is just absolutely just depleted. Like this ECU team is supposed to be very, very bad defensively this year, and NC State made them look like they might have a chance in Conference USA. I ain't gonna hold you. Like, and they're not, okay. And that's the deception. They're not. ECU is not gonna have a chance. They're not good. But that also showed us that North Carolina State is not that good either this year. They allowed 383 passing yards to East Carolina, almost 400. Are you kidding me, bro? Are you kidding me? I can only imagine that UVA is probably licking their chops like, yo, you guys allowed ECU to have almost 400 yards. We should have no problem with you guys, and you guys have the nerve to be laying 2.5 points to us. Cool, no problem. Give me the 2.5 points. I think Virginia wins this one outright. Also, Virginia's team total is 26.5. If ECU was able to hang 17 points and was knocking on the door of putting up 24 versus NC State, I gotta believe that UVA can hang 28 points. Okay, I gotta believe that UVA can hang 28 points. So, absolutely love those two plays. I think UVA puts BTA, which is belt to ass, to NC State on Saturday.
Yeah, I really like that pick. I'm personally not going to take it, only because this game is just so bad. I just don't want to bet on something that's this bad. But also UVA, I think they have the upper hand at quarterback. Chandler Morris, coming over from North Texas last year, and all they do there is throw the ball. I don't even know if they run the ball at North Texas. So he definitely can sling it a little bit, and if he's healthy coming to this game, I know there was some questions. He was a little banged up after the game last week. But if he's fully good to go, I expect him to ball out here against NC State. I like that pick. And to quote Playboy Cardi, there was a whole lot of red on the board when looking at this game. There wasn't a lot of anything to pick from in this game. So, but I'm with you there. I think UVA is a big pick here. Something that I had my eye on was, and never mind, I don't have it up anymore. Ole Miss and Kentucky. I don't understand how this line was 10.5. If that is also still the number, I completely understand that Ole Miss, revenge factor in this game against Kentucky for the loss that they had last year. But Lane Kiffin's been thinking about this game for a whole year. It's even dropped to 8.5, which I love even more. I think Ole Miss wins this game by at least 2 touchdowns. So if you're liking something here, I don't know about you, Lo, but I love now that it's dropped to 8.5 for sure. Total even dropped the point to 50.5.
I mean, it would have to just be Ole Miss or nothing. It's no way I could. No, I can't do nothing with Kentucky. I mean, this team just they struggled. I mean, they struggled in their opener. This team isn't projected to be any good this year. They're supposed to be at the bottom of the SEC. So yeah, it would be Ole Miss for me or nothing. I know we tried to talk about this last night. And still really haven't done a lot of research on it.
Yeah.
But from what I did look at, Kentucky. I know I was looking at on Saturday. Kept on looking. I'm like, yo, they're struggling to Toledo, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like Kentucky is struggling to Toledo. And then last night when I went and I was like, well, how many yards? Let me see what's on. Toledo had 270 yards passing through the air versus Kentucky, and Ole Miss.
While Kentucky only had 85 to Toledo.
Right. Terrible, bro. You can only assume that Lane Kiffin is like, really? Okay. Fair notes taken, okay? We'll just go ahead and air it out on y'all. So I'm in agreement. I think this is another BTA. It's no way that Ole Miss doesn't win this one by 14 plus running away.
For sure. I have one more best bet. This game's actually on Friday. And I've already placed it. I took it last night. I got JMU. I got it at 14.5. I like the Dukes to go on the road at Louisville and cover the number of 14.5. I think JMU is a outside sneaky contender for the group of 5, spot in the playoff, especially if they, lose this game, but still, show some fight, at least cover that number. I think they're at least in contention to win their conference and definitely, be a player in the playoff going on later in the season. So I like JMU to cover the number 14.5. I know I have in the graphic 12.5. So let me just check for the live audience, make sure that is still the number. It went back to 14.5. Perfect. So yeah, JMU plus 14.5, minus 118 on FanDuel. That's one of my best bets of the week for sure. Well, I don't know if you have anything in this game. If you don't, we're good to wrap up.
I thought that Sluka was going to be the starting quarterback. I see he only went 3 for 4, 15 yards. It looks like it's Barnett, the third?
Yeah, Alonzo Barnett. Yep.
Wow, Sluka. So you did all of that crying about NIL,
Chase a bag.
transfer right to chase a bag, and bro, you're not even the starting quarterback. You got to be
Nope.
kidding me. Oh my gosh, bro, it's all bad.
Welcome to college football in 2025. Yeah.
Yeah, facts. Um, hey, look, you handicapped it, so I'm gonna take your advice on it. I have not handicapped that game yet. I probably wouldn't. I'm probably not gonna dive down into that till tonight. So,
Yeah.
whatever you like in it, I say roll with that for sure.
Yeah, and just for your peace of mind and anyone that is watching live, JMU has covered a 14.5 or greater spread in 28 of their last 30 games overall, and they've just covered the number in away games, ATS, 21 out of the last 24 games on the road. So, uh, I they're a wagon covering against the spread, and I think they do it again this week. Again, Friday night. That's a 7 o'clock kick on ESPN2. Well, you got anything else for the people?
Week two is a mid slate for sure. It's really hard to find a lot of good things here. You see a lot of teams, a lot of the good FBS teams going against a lot of FCS schools. So it doesn't feel like it's a week two that you want to crash a whole lot of money on college football. If anything, I guess you kind of want to take it easy and then enjoy yourself for week one of NFL on Sunday. But yeah, I'm probably not going to be dispatching a lot of units in week two college football because it just does not look like a spot to dispatch a lot of units.
No, you're waiting to put a lot of units on LSU money line next week against Florida, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely. We are nuking that.
All right. Well, thank you, Love, for joining us today. That's all we got for this episode of Love for the Game. Thank you for joining us. Anyone in the live chat, appreciate you. Remember to join us on TikTok, Instagram, and X at LFTGPod01. Hit us up on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And shout out to our sponsors, Squad Blitz and Outlier. Thank you for their support as well. Love, thank you for joining us again. We will see you back here on Sunday for the recap show. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great week too, and God bless.